Hi, my name is Matt Kosterman. I'm a 56-year-old white guy living in Chicago, Illinois. For the first 50 plus years of my life, I didn't think I was allowed to be here. Not just here in Chicago, but here, on Earth, in a body. I suffered from depression for most of my life. I smoked my first joint at age 11 and had my first drink of Southern Comfort straight from the bottle at age 13. While the cannabis never really took hold as an addiction, I drank alcohol for the next 20 years, many times to excess. In 1998, I began psychotherapy, and in the year 2000, I started on antidepressants. I spent 12 years on them and 15 years in traditional talk therapy. Meanwhile, I built a successful business, became a father to 2 amazing girls, and rehabbed an old house in a nice suburb. I did all the things. In 2010, I went through divorce, foreclosure, and bankruptcy. Fun times. After much flailing about, I got my head on straight in 2015, only to begin experiencing severe chronic pelvic pain along with fibromyalgia. I spent nearly 3 years in the Western medical system trying desperately to heal. In 2018, out of money and out of patience, my healing journey really kicked into gear after my first magic mushroom trip. The years since have been an amazing and challenging ride. I've traversed the physical and not so physical worlds and been fortunate to work with many, many talented healers. As a result of all my efforts, I now find myself in a place of receiving, contentment, and prosperity, the likes of which had eluded me for most of my life. There's a man named Daryl Anka who channels a being called Bashar. Bashar describes the process of engaging with a healer, that of giving yourself what is essentially a permission slip to move towards wholeness, healing, and right relationship. This podcast is an effort to share some of what I've learned and introduce you to some of the people and ways that literally gave me what feels like my permission slip for existence. It's also an effort to continue to spread the word that the traditional Western medical system, while effective for a great many things, is not necessarily the be-all, end-all solution to every health problem, especially when the problem may be more spiritual than it is physical, as it was in my case. Thanks for joining me. I hope you enjoy it. Please like, subscribe, and do all the social media things that help spread the word. Share these links with people directly in your community. It is my sincere hope that you and others will benefit from my experiences. Hi, welcome back to The Permission Slip. This is Matt, and I'm here today with Wendy Perkins Schoef. She's coming to us from mildly sunny LA, warmer than Chicago, where we're headed for -11 on this lovely January day. And Wendy is an ADHD microdosing and Neuro-Pleasure coach. Did I get all that?
Yeah, he did.
Great. And her specialty and area of concentration is working with solo entrepreneurs. So thanks for being here today, Wendy. Super excited to chat.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited for the conversation.
Yeah. So microdosing has been a hot thing these days. So we'll get into that. And for those who may not be aware, microdosing is generally refers to psychedelic medicines like LSD and psilocybin, which is in mushrooms. And I think also some people are working with mescaline. Is this true?
Yes.
I know I microdosed the mescaline for a little while. Those are sort of the 3 biggies.
There's a few more that are working their way in now, but those are the
There are, okay. Because I know MDMA doesn't really work that way.
No.
Is my understanding. So how did you get into, tell us a little bit about your origin story. You're Californian almost by birth.
Yeah. Origin story is, when was I actually created?
How do you become a neuro-pleasure coach? Like, what was your upbringing? Well, you said you were Catholic.
Yeah. So I, as we said, we had a little conversation off mic. I was raised Catholic, and I kind of lost religion a while ago, but my family was Catholic. I went to a Lutheran school because my mom couldn't afford and also the time to get to the Catholic school so she could work. So I went to a Lutheran school. So I had religious studies Monday through Friday, Catholic school on Saturday, because I had to make sure that the religion, studies that I got at the Lutheran school were actually, I could learn what's actually the right way, quote unquote.
Yeah. And so you're a single mother?
Yeah, single mom. So, which that in itself, in being Catholic, was an issue because she even struggled with it because they were divorced, but she never remarried because in her eyes, still had to be married to my father. Um, and so it was her choice to be separated. So like that, not to say that it wasn't
But they
her
were,
decision, but it was still a very big issue with her religiously. Like she
yeah,
struggled with that part.
till death do us part and all.
Yeah, the whole, yeah, all of that,
Yeah, right.
all that part. My dad was not really a part of my life. So we moved to California when I was about 18 months old because that's actually when my mom separated from my father and my grandparents lived here. And so my mom wanted to be closer to her mom to be able to help out and all the things that a single mom, especially in the 70s, needed.
Right, right.
So my father was mentally insane and
Mm,
schizophrenic, bipolar, although he had many different diagnoses because as they kept shifting everything. So who actually knows what the issues were? But there was definitely some mania, a lot of mania
okay.
in there. So whether that's schizophrenic or bipolar, I'm not sure. But
So no relationship with him. He wasn't.
you know, he was just kind of in and out of my
Yeah.
life. Just whenever it was convenient for him to be around, then he would be around. Ironically, he happened to be living with us at the time when my mom died. So my mom died when I was 14. So he had been there for a couple of weeks because my mom felt really bad for him because he literally had nowhere to go and didn't exactly want to, felt guilty about him being on the streets. So let him, we
Sure.
lived in a house and we had like a back room that had the entrance from the back door of the place. So that's where he stayed, and he was only allowed in the house to use the toilet, like the bathroom. Anyways, that was a weird moment in time.
Yeah.
And it's
So
really
as a
defining though.
teenager,
Like this father
it's
that's
really
never around is there, like at one of the most defining moments in my life. Um, I guess that kind of sums it up, right?
yeah.
uh,
That's fascinating.
yeah. Uh, Anyways, I don't remember how I got to. So if you want me to get to Neuro-Pleasure, there's like a whole bunch of stuff, but that's a little bit about my background. I kind of bounced around from one aunt and uncle to another aunt and uncle, and then
13 years.
for a few years. So I graduated high school when I was 17. Went to college, been on my own since then. Um, and so moved around different places. So when I graduated high school, I grew up in LA. So we moved here to LA when my mom left my dad. And then one aunt and uncle in a northern area. And then of here, north of LA, not Northern California. And then over to Maryland, which is where I graduated high school from. I went to college, jumped around because I have ADHD and couldn't make a decision on what I wanted to do. Little funny story about the ADHD part and not making decision. I took a class in college called choosing a major. They had a choosing a major class. And at the end of it, the instructor was like, I don't know what to say for you. Like you've taken every test, you're all over the place. There's literally like, I don't know.
I don't know.
He's like, you're
Pick one.
getting
Throw
an
it
A,
dartboard.
but I don't know what to tell you.
Oh my
'Cause
god.
I was accommodating and did all the tests and did all the things, but we could not come up with a solution. Um, but it's all good. And then moved out here, had a life.
What did you end up majoring? Did you get a degree?
So I dropped out of school because I kind of wanted to go into science. Like I really wanted to go into research, but back in that time, they didn't really separate research and being a medical doctor. It kind of all went together. I'm sure some schools had it separated, but the majority of schools didn't. And it kind of was a path that you had to take to get into research. And so I had problems puncturing skin. So I dropped out after my anatomy and physiology 2 class where um, that just didn't work out very well when I had to work on
Like
cadavers.
putting a syringe in, or cutting into a cadaver.
Yeah. So I was
Yeah,
fine as long as
whatever.
it was open, but it was just, I couldn't do anything with the skin.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I could see
Um,
that. Yeah, that would be a
uh,
little weird.
so, that kind of put a damper on my thing. So I dropped out of school for a while, and then I did end up going back to school, and so I have a double major in marketing and finance. So
Oh,
that's
wow,
where,
the other end of the spectrum.
yeah, because I figured I was going to own a business someday, and I knew you could hire human resources, right? Like that's a pretty good thing. Accountants are very regulated. So,
Right.
as long as they're accredited, you're going to be fine in your accounting department. Sales, the numbers are there. Either you're there or you're not. And,
Right.
it's
Right.
kind of a thing. And when I was looking at it, I was like, well, if financing and marketing, like if those are not, like if you don't know those, then you're really going to struggle in business. So that's why I chose those.
Oh, interesting. And then did you go to work for a company, or did
Oh,
you go on your own right away?
I mean, I jumped around because I have ADHD and couldn't decide what I wanted, what even company. But I had like different things. So I worked for a while. I worked for a real estate company, and I was like there. I had every position in the company, helped them open up a loan company and escrow company. And basically, by the time I left there, we just called my title special projects manager because I basically would take on the big projects and figure out how the roles worked, write all the descriptions and the manuals and stuff, and
Standard operating procedures and all
yeah,
that.
all the SOPs. I would write all the
All the
SOPs for
SOPs.
everything,
Yeah.
and then I got hired for a couple other real estate companies to do the same thing basically for them, and then I ended up working for a biometric company, and when I left there, I was the sales manager for US and for distribution for US and Canada. So
Okay.
see, jumped around like you know all this
Yeah,
stuff.
it's interesting. I mean, yeah, I think it's interesting how I mean, I probably arguably suffer from a touch ADHD, and it's interesting that interested in all the things you can write the SOPs, but when it comes to following, I'm like, the hell with that. Like, that's for the other guy. I don't want to follow. I can't be bothered to focus that long.
Exactly. Yeah, very much so. And
Yeah.
then along the way, I was building websites. So
Hmm.
I started building. It was actually in a marketing science. No, what was the science class? It was a business science class. I can't remember what the name of it is right now. The word is leaving my mind. Management science. It was a management science class, and for an extra credit thing, I built a access database with custom code. And since I was at the time working at the real estate office, so that's kind of why I ended up there because it was a good job while I was in college. Because the hours they're open 7 days a week.
Yeah.
There's
Yeah.
like
Yeah. Right.
there's lots of flexibility there, and so I it was a group project and we did it, and they instead of just using fake data, I was like, can I just build this for the real estate company that I work for and make my job easier? Because I saw some things that would make my life easier with it. And
Yeah.
so, and then I kept going with it. And so I kind of just always been really tech on the other side. And I've been building websites. I did that with my kids. So I eventually got married. I have two boys, a 16-year-old and a 13-year-old. Although my 13's about to be 14 next month. Um, and so building websites was a great way to have kids because I didn't really have to deal with like clients too much. I just had to
Right.
do things on the back end,
Couple
you know?
emailing back and forth, a couple meetings here and there, and then just go build stuff.
Exactly. So
Yeah. Yeah.
so I just did that for years and then separated from my ex in 2017, decided this is a long, you said origin story. Like sorry, ADHD brain going all over the
No,
place.
that's all right. That's it. I mean, I
Um
think it's in, I think people's lives are interesting. It's never linear. I think,
yeah.
I once thought it was supposed to be, and then come to realize that it's not.
When I separated from my ex, I'm on my own sexual journey to
Yeah.
discover things because I realized I wasn't getting younger. And so I had fantasies about being in a threesome. So I figured out how to get myself a threesome and then ended up in the whole sex party world of stuff.
The whole
And
tantric world, and
not necessarily tantra, but like sex parties,
Okay.
um,
Okay.
which they're different, right?
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
and along the way, when I was discovering things about my body, I would ask people about, do you know this? And also at the time, part of that exploration was I wanted to learn more about BDSM. And I met up with this guy that I had met through one of the online modalities. And he'd been in BDSM world for years and years and years. And we're still friends. So just as a side note, we're still friends. Anyways, we had a scene together. That's what it's called. And
Mm-hmm.
in the scene, I kind of thought to myself, I think if something went wrong, this could be dangerous. Right. And afterwards, after the scene was over, I asked him about it. And he's like, yeah, I completely forgot to go over something with you. And I realized that in that moment, like, it doesn't matter how long someone's been doing something. It doesn't mean they actually are an expert. Like, if you've been doing something wrong your whole life, it doesn't mean you're doing it right just because you've been doing it for 17 years wrong. Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I decided to get a job at a dungeon so I can
Ah,
learn from people who
there's
actually,
jobs. Okay.
yeah.
Yeah.
So I did that while I started building a coaching career. And so I had access to tons of people to talk about all kinds of things related to sex, BDSM, all of the things.
Yeah.
And so I actually started out as an orgasm coach, hence the Neuro-Pleasure
Okay.
part. And then orgasms all start and end in the nervous system. And also, remember I said my 13-year-old who's going to be 14, he was born with a brain injury. So I've learned more than I ever wanted to about the brain and nervous system and developmental biology and behavior and all of the
Okay.
things that I thought I was going to research actually. When I
Uh-huh.
was younger, I now got forced to do it as an
And
adult.
you got to do it without having to cut into anybody.
Yeah, exactly. Um, and then COVID hit, realized it was hard to support people through these like relational issues when my kids are in the other room screaming. And so I decided
Mm-hmm.
to kind of pivot more and focus on the business again because I still had all of it, but I am always bringing back to nervous system regulation and focusing on pleasure, even in business. Like, we'll talk business stuff, but then bring it back because it's
Bring
like,
it back. Bring it
yeah,
right.
you know? So that's kind of my origin story, there's so
Yeah,
many.
that's really cool. I love it. Yeah, no, that's super cool. One of my a couple days ago, I interviewed a guy. Just was at a Kudoshka retreat. I don't know if you're familiar with the Deer Tribe Sacred Sexuality Path out of Arizona, and interviewed a guy out of Boulder, Christopher, and yeah, we had a great experience in the container, in this immersive container, and not BDSM directly, but just this whole. And I was reflecting on it the other day about how between sex and drugs and rock and roll, right? We can heal from music, we can heal from sex, and we can heal from medicines. And those seem to be the things that the patriarchy least wants us to have access to. I mean, like you're old enough to remember the 80s and Tipper Gore and the whole,
Oh
the
yeah.
rock lyrics and the explicit thing. And we're still dealing with the fallout from Just Say No and all that bullshit. And God forbid, that you have sex. So it's oh,
Yep.
and there's so much healing power to be had through. I mean, I haven't dipped in much into the BDSM world. Did go to a sex party, and I've done a couple of ISTA retreats. But it's amazing, and I've looked at some shamanic kink kind of immersions. But it's amazing the healing that can come through allowing the sexual energy to flow in your body
Absolutely.
in different ways. And so this is what you bring into your work with. You're working these days mostly with solo entrepreneurs that are wanting to, I assume, grow their business and
Yes.
expand and running up against their own limitations.
Yep. Yeah, that's the as a solo entrepreneur, you're doing everything yourself, right? So you don't
Yeah.
have a team. Hopefully you build to the point where you have a team, but until you get there, you're by yourself. And, you know, you live in, you're not a business person in isolation. And in particular with solo entrepreneurs, especially the ones that, so pretty much everyone I work with has not gotten, I actually like working with people who are struggling. And I know it's not necessarily the most lucrative target audience because they're
Yeah.
struggling and they don't have a lot of money, but it's my passion to be able to help them because they're the ones who kind of need the most help and assistance. And it is, it's not just the business part because people are very smart. I really have never met anyone who's lazy or unintelligent. Everyone has their own intelligence in their own ways, and lazy is just a word that people use to explain some things that they don't like. And it doesn't necessarily, like I've never known anyone who lacks motivation. Everyone has motivation. They may not have energy to take action on their motivation, but they're highly motivated. They're not lazy people. When they have energy, they get their shit done. Oops, I can say shit, right? On
You can say shit. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, just making sure.
You can say all the words. It's yeah.
I can say all the words. All right.
Yeah.
Those people are very capable. It's a matter of having the resources and skills to be able to do all the things. And most of it actually stems from a lot of nervous system dysregulation. And so,
Dysregulation.
I look at people like their whole existence, right? If you're fighting with your spouse or you haven't had sex in 6 months because you've just lost that, you're missing a whole bunch of creative energy that is creating stagnation in your business, and building your business.
In your body. I mean,
In your body,
stagnation in your
right?
body, which, yeah, right.
All of it. It's all connected. We're whole people, and especially as I said, solo entrepreneurs, like we're whole people building a business. So all the aspects of yourself kind of need to be evaluated and looked at. And
yeah, I mean, I had that exact experience coming out of this retreat. I work as a photographer as my main job, and I with some of the looking at the polarities, the masculine and the feminine, and the way that we were looking at them, and some of the imprint removal and things that we did, I came back and I booked 3 sessions with people just to be creative. I photograph a lot of business people. That's my main thing is corporate. I do big corporate events and I do headshots and executive portraits. And I just brought some people in that I enjoyed and that wanted to have their pictures taken. And on the heels of the retreat, and created some images that I really like, which is saying something because we're our own worst critics. But I feel like it was the unlocking. I mean, the sexual energy is ultimately creative energy. I mean, it's what we use to create humans. And if you can create a human with it, what else can you create with it?
exactly. Unlimited.
So unlimited. Yeah. Yeah. We could, go down the rabbit hole of sex magic and all of that. I mean, there's all kind of, it's what it all goes, but it's the ultimate void. It's the ultimate, from nothing comes the little seed and the little egg and boom.
Yep. The spark.
You got a mouth.
Yep.
You got a mouth to feed.
2 of them in my case.
2 of them. Yeah. So how does it look? How do you engage with people? So you find that, so you're targeting people who feel like they've had a diagnosis of ADHD, or they just know something's off, or they've heard about you. Like, what's the?
Yeah, you don't have to have like an official diagnosis of ADHD. So part of like one of the reasons why I focus so much on the Neuro-Pleasure, or maybe not necessarily focus so much, because I really do help people, like on the business side of stuff, I really do help people get the systems and things in place that help them have a regulated nervous system so they can create and so they can build.
Functional system, just the stuff that needs to happen in terms of a P&L and a cost of goods and a
Yeah,
systems
all
for
the things.
marketing and website and all those kind of things.
It's honestly, most of it is about, okay, of these 12 projects that you're trying to build at the same time, let's see if we can narrow it down to 3.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
And then we go from there.
So,
So
so
that's
you now,
basically the issue, right?
yeah. So you now have new appreciation for your business major professor trying to get you to
Oh,
narrow it down to a major.
completely. Yeah, it is not lost on me.
Yeah. 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 So
And
and
I
then
get
yeah.
it too. That's why I like. I think that's why I like doing it so much, because I really understand. Like, I'm in it too. Like, I
Right.
I'm
You want to do
literally,
all the you want to do all the things.
yeah.
Yeah.
So as far so like with ADHD, with everything with the body for the most part, this is my not it's not even a philosophy, but it's what I know to be
Approach.
true. But you
Mhm.
can call it a philosophy if you want to, is that your body's doing exactly what it's supposed to do with the circumstances at hand. So if you have ADHD symptoms, like whatever that diagnose, if whether or not you have a diagnosis is kind of irrelevant. If your hormones are out of balance, like whatever the thing is that your body is doing, it's doing it exactly as it's supposed to do. And
Given the circumstances.
given the circumstances. And so once you
Yeah.
start really wrapping your, like, once you see it, you can't unsee it, right? So then you start realizing,
Mhm.
okay, I have to, there's nothing wrong with me. There's nothing wrong with anybody. We're bodies are doing exactly what they're supposed to do with the circumstances. So how do we adjust the circumstances so that way it's not the symptoms that we don't like so much?
Sure. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I remember I moved into the place that I'm currently in 4.5 years ago, and I had been in a place for, I think, 5 years prior, and it was a very nice place, but it had, I was coming out of a lot of trauma, divorce, foreclosure, bankruptcy, all kinds of things, and then I was living in this place and started to have conflicts with the property manager, and the place was flooding sewage up from whenever it would rain hard because it was a garden unit. It was gnarly. I mean, 5 or 6 times it flooded, and I remember moving to this place, and it was newer and it was clean. I remember waking up the first morning and just being like, oh, like everything just was like, oh, it's clean, it's dry, it's not that same person that I'm having to deal with. And there was a level of relaxation that occurred there that then allowed me to flourish ever since. So anyway, I can relate strongly to what you're saying.
Yep. Yeah. And sometimes the circumstances are very difficult to change. They are what they are. And it's a matter of creating, like, how do we work within it? So one of the examples I'll use is my son with the brain injury. So that's not going away. That's there. And there are things that are more difficult because of it. And I have to make adjustments around it. I can't just fix his brain. I wish I could. That would be
Yeah, yeah,
cool if
right.
I could. So instead, I have to change some of the circumstances around that, because
Around it.
it used to be a lot more stressful. It's less stressful for many reasons, but
Okay.
a lot of my
So when
practice.
you're
Yeah.
Yeah, and so when you're working with somebody, so you're looking at, okay, what do you want to what do you want to focus on? You have these dozen projects. Let's narrow it down to 2 or 3 or maybe 4,
Yeah.
and then you look at what circumstances can be changed. What can we change? Like, I mean, the whole thing about the 12 steps, right? What you change, what you can change, accept what you can't, basically.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then
Uh,
how did go ahead?
oh no, go.
I was going to say, so how does microdosing and Neuro-Pleasure, how do those aspects come in?
So that's part of. So I'm very much a goal setting intention. If you're
Right.
around me on the microdosing side, you will probably have heard that from me. I have a holistic
So repeat again. Yeah. So it's goal set.
goal setting intention. And so that always needs to be looked at first before you even figure out what you're going to do, whether that be microdosing, taking action in your business, trying to fix your relationship, be a better parent. Like you kind of have to look at all of those parts of it, because it's not the same in every circumstance. So I'll take my son because it's just a pretty neutral but understandable topic, right? So I think everyone can understand, like as a mom, I want things to be good for my son, both sons. So I have both sons. So like my older one gets ignored in conversations with people, but not ignored in real life. just so just so you know.
He does not have a brain injury.
He doesn't have a brain injury, so it's less about that. But I apply a lot of the same. It's the same concept, whether or not it's whichever son it is. So, for example, my younger son, his name is Max. Um, so right now he's 13, but he's more developmentally like a 4-year-old. So he's basically like a toddler with 13 years of experience. So some ways he's a little bit older, in some ways he's still younger, and he struggles with speaking. So part of the brain that controls speech was damaged. So that's, another little thing on top of it, right? Um, toddlers in general get very frustrated easily. They get even more frustrated when they can't communicate. And when you have a toddler going through puberty, it's a very interesting thing, right? So my goals for him are, as I say, I want to be a better parent. My goals are very different between Max and my older son, right? So you have to look at that first, right? Before you can even think about anything else. And then when I talk about set, that's about, I know in the psychedelic space, they usually say mindset. That's a piece of it. So I look at physical, mental, emotional, spiritual, social, like those 5 kind of aspects of yourself. And that's your set. Like that's where everything's going to be happening. That's the set, if you're an actor, right? you know,
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
um,
Yeah.
that's and then, the setting goes in with that. So like the setting is different because that's like that person, the set, the whole, maybe it's more like a what's the Tinker Toy set, right? Like let's look
Right.
at all
Yeah.
the Tinker Toys and how they're going to fit together, right? And then you have the setting in which the Tinker Toy set is going to be, right? Um, and so they change. So I'm going to have a different approach to things when I'm dealing with my older son versus when I'm dealing with my younger son, because that's the setting. It's different people around, different
Different
whole
set. Yeah.
different thing. Me, with my younger son, am I talking about trying to not be angry, or like not angry, but like frustrated in the morning because he's not potty trained right now, which is a whole nother issue too. And there's biological reasons for that. So I don't know if it will ever happen. Uh, Slow improvements, we'll see. Um, but sometimes if you've ever had a kid, if anyone's had a kid, when they're moving through the stages that like sizes, sometimes the diapers start leaking. And so, a 13-year-old holds a lot of pee, right?
Compared to a 4-year-old. Yeah.
Yeah. And so, um, there have been multiple times in the middle of, and so he has to sleep in my bed too, because he's missing some of the reflexes. So if he happens to catch a fever in the middle of the night, he'll throw up. And so he doesn't always sit up when that happens. And so that's not a good thing. And because everyone knows that happens sometimes. Like sometimes when you start feeling sick is in the middle of the night, and you're fine during the day, but you're not at night. So he just sleeps with me. Also, he'll wake up screaming, calling for me, and that's very dysregulating for me.
Sure.
So
Sure.
it's much easier if he just goes, "Mama," and I'm right there, and I don't have to, ah, hop
Yeah.
up out
Fly
of
out of
bed, like,
bed and.
yeah, like what's going on, So it's just easier. He sleeps in my bed. And so sometimes I wake up in the middle of the night because he peed and like I'm wet, and
Mm-mm.
I'm not exactly super happy in that moment. Right?
Right. Yeah. 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 Yeah.
Um, And it's not his fault. Like, like later on during the day when I'm like, I can logically go like, it's not his fault. He has the thing, like all the things, right? It is not so easy to
3
like
a.m.
be at peace and grounded and remember how to breathe in the moment. And right. So
Right.
goal is very different.
Equanimity.
Do you get what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
that's what I'm trying to say. So like, I just use that
Yeah. Yeah.
because
Yeah.
it's a very clear example of how like, that's a very different goal than, okay, what do I do when my older son is rolling his eyes at me when I ask him a question, right? Like they're very different. So you can't even look at it. And so the set is different, right? Like I'm cranky. Like the things that I can do when I'm standing there having a conversation with my son and I'm awake and not waking up and pee, is very different, right? So you have to look at all of those things before you can even start to take action. And it's no different with microdosing. And so that's why I look at that and like, what's the intention? So like first with Max would be like, okay, your intention is to just not say anything. Like just notice what you're feeling and just not say anything. Right? Like, and that was it. That's all I worked on. And then once I got that, then we kind of did the next kind of thing because I didn't want him to feel bad. Because, I'm sure no one likes to be yelled at. Whether or not he understands, I don't know. We can't have that conversation with him, but, he doesn't like to be yelled at. No one likes to be yelled at.
The energy of it is no fun for anybody.
Exactly. So, that was, what you kind of work with. And so, as I said, bring it back to microdosing, it's the same kind of thing. So, like, are you sitting in front of your desk trying to get work done when you want to microdose and you don't want to focus on all of the things that are going wrong? Or are you trying to process your emotions so you can practice having emotional regulation? Those are two totally different goals. The setting
Mm-hmm.
is different when you're at work having to be, focused versus like, oh, on Sunday when I've got a moment, right? Those are all the things that you just have to look at all that stuff, first. And I don't remember what the original question was because I know I talked about a lot.
Yeah, no, I was just no. That's super interesting. I was asking about how you bring, the consultative approach to people around like what to microdose, when to microdose, how to when what substance, because the substances again are LSD, psilocybin, a little bit of mescaline. What's coming in now? Are things like
Um,
2CB or anything?
yeah, I mean there's a bunch of them on there. Iboga is one. So like
Variety Boga I've seen
Iboga.
show up. Mm-hmm.
And then you can find like sometimes people will microdose ayahuasca. Sometimes they just microdose the vine.
I was gonna say, are
There's
they doing the Vine or
the
because the
VCAP.
DMT is gonna get the BCAP because the DMT is
Some
gonna
people
get
are actually
digested.
microdosing a brew as well.
Oh, a whole brew.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, I mean, everyone's just kind of trying to figure out like what works. And then there's a Kana as well, but I don't know that that's actually microdose. It's more low dose. Like there's some things that
Mm-hmm.
microdose versus low dose, and it's just you have to look at all the other stuff to figure out, okay, what does this substance do? What kind of effect is it going to have on my set? Is that good
Yeah.
for my setting? Is that going to help me get my goal? And then if those kind of align, all right, like, you know, is it also going to work with my intention? Right. Like if
Yeah.
you're going
Yeah.
to take
And then
a substance that's
yeah.
going to make you really talkative and you have to be quiet, that's not going to be a good thing.
Well, and I know from the conversations I've seen you be a part of on the group online, and then from your Substack newsletter, like you also coming at it from the brain chemistry side of things and what's going on and what receptors are being triggered and what other medicines may be messing with those receptors. So you're coming at it with a very deep, holistic view, which I think is refreshing and really powerful. I'm wondering if the people who are microdosing the ayahuasca brew, if they have to drink it out of a 2-liter Coke bottle, because that's how it's all. Because when you do it in the jungle, that's what it always seems to be in.
Oh,
Which
that's
I thought
funny.
was like, no, not that Coke bottle, honey. Don't drink out of that one. Um, and then so ultimately, to put a bow on it, but so we got goal setting, intention, but ultimately it's really about bringing the nervous system into coherence.
Yes.
And getting it to settle down. And where does the neuro-pleasure part of that come in? Are you coaching people on like masturbatory practices, sexual practices? Go hire a tantrika?
It's just a very personal thing. So that because I have the years of orgasm coaching, I have a lot of tools in my toolbox, right? That I can refer people to. So for, I will say almost hands down, like I don't know a single person that I can think of off the top of my head where I didn't ask or didn't recommend this, but would for women starting with a yoni dearmouring practice. For men, it's a lingam massage, but I don't know enough to know if it, like, I'll be honest, like I understand the biology and I understand, I just don't have enough background and history around that to know if that's that. And usually with the males that where there's like a part of their sexuality that needs to be worked on, almost everyone that I've worked with, it's been either completely low, like no low libido, or excessive, like either
too
like
much.
usually like a porn addiction or something along that lines. It's very rarely, somewhere in between there.
In the
It
middle.
can be, but it's just
Yeah.
it's just not normally there. And usually there's a lot of it depends, like if it's a relational thing. It's kind of, you have to kind of just depend on where people are starting from,
Mm-hmm.
And it still goes with that, the goal setting tension. Are they in a relationship and trying to build connection with their partner? Are they in a solo practice? I
They're
still
trying to manifest a relationship, right?
yeah, like all of that it's all a piece of the puzzle, and there isn't just one tool that works for everybody.
Yeah,
Although
no, which I didn't
dearmouring,
expect. I was just the dearmoring. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. I'm actually in mid-April, I'm going back to Scottsdale for a 2-week shamanic dearmoring practice
Oh, cool.
with the Q tribe. So a very deep dive into basically shattering the armor that we put on, getting to a frequency to blow away the armor that's been instilled as children. We armor up.
Yeah. With yoni dearmoring, so if for people who don't know what that is, that's when
Yeah.
it's
So
basically like self massage on the inside, but not just with fingers. Like you kind of to do it right, like to get all the parts, you need another device, like a cervical wand is usually my recommendation for that. But it brings up, like, just everyone who knows this, I think, probably listening to your podcast. And if you don't, like when you get a massage, you sometimes can cry because it brings up emotions and memory and all that stuff. When you start massaging out the inside, like actually working through it, there's a ton.
There's some deep shit buried in there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I, as I said, I know there's lingam massage, but the prostate and the cervix are more closely connected. And
Yeah.
I know from working with people and talking to them about it, that when males start in with, prostate massage and prostate things, like there's a lot of stuff there, but a lot of it's a society thing, and there's just different programming around it, so it's
Yes.
not the same.
100%.
It's not the same thing. Guys usually can talk about being a sexual person without being judged. Whereas
Right, but guys have a hard time talking about putting something in their butt.
that they do. That is for sure.
I mean,
But
it's sort of it's the corollary of women. Women can't
yeah,
be too when women start talking about sex, then they're sluts or they're hooker. I mean, there's
yeah.
this programming around that, and when men talk about putting things in their butt, but I can tell you from experience, there's a lot of armoring in there. There's
Oh
a
yeah,
lot of
for
things
sure.
buried.
That's
Yeah,
why, like,
it's
I recommend it for people. That's why I brought it up because I'm like, you know,
yeah.
like exploring anal play safely, by yourself first and getting
Right.
comfortable with it and like learning and then bringing in a partner or having a partner that helps guide you. Although I'm a big fan of self practices because you kind of like, I don't think it's a good idea to outsource your pleasure to people. I've never seen that be a
I mean,
good long-term solution
long
to
term,
anything. Yeah.
right? Ultimately, like all the sages say, the answer is within.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I mean, and I mean, I'm glad you brought this stuff up. I mean, that's why I have the podcast so that we can talk about things like this and start to break the stigma and the shame around these topics. Like we talked about in our, sort of our pre-call was, or maybe it was in the, I don't know, sex and drugs and rock and roll, right? Like,
Yeah.
I mean, you can heal parts of your body through music. You can heal parts of your body through access through medicines, and you can heal parts of your body through sex,
Yeah.
sexual energy.
It's part of you. Um, so I am always reminded of this one time I was at a journey where I was a participant, so I don't serve medicine. And they the medicine that was served was like a heart opener. And so sometimes people get like the jaw attention. And so they mentioned something about the jaw. And I was like, just as a reminder, and I just like kind of spoke up, I was like, just a reminder, everybody, if your jaw is tense, that means your pelvic floor is tense. And everyone got like, not everyone, but a bunch of people got uncomfortable. And I was like, it's a body part. Like, oh, my elbow. Like, why do we have a problem? Like, we don't
Right.
shame our elbow or our wrists or our eyes or, like,
Yeah. But
it's,
our pelvic floor, oh my God.
I know.
But yeah.
Like,
No, I found that out. Yeah, the jaw is absolutely directly tied to the pubic pelvic region.
yeah, exactly. And so without a healthy pelvic floor, like, your health is not good. And,
Right.
I think most people who are alive are looking to be healthier. So you want to have like a healthy pelvic
Right.
floor.
Supple and strong. I mean,
Yeah.
that's been my journey. I mean, that's why I'm here today, is because my journey was through pelvic floor disorder, through everything was locked up, tighter than a drum. I mean, I couldn't, it was twisted, it was lifted, it was tight. There was no mobility, tissue all the way to the outside, all the way front to back was, I used to sit, remember I was dating, and when we went to a concert, it was Leo Kottke, who was a guitar player who I've loved since I was about 10 years old. And I was sitting there, and I was playing a ton of tennis at the time. Excuse me. And I felt like I was sitting on a golf ball. Like my glute was so just a rock. It was crazy.
Mm.
And it ended up being very debilitating for many years. And as I have done the work and opened things up, it's remarkable, the flow, because it's the root. I mean, it's the root chakra. It's the ground. It's the connection to this physical earth.
Yep.
Energetically. And I mean, I think, if I'm not mistaken, all of the chakras have connections to the throat, right? Everything loops up through the throat, but especially
Yep.
the root chakra.
Yeah, it's so everything's connected through the breath,
Yeah.
which goes through the throat, right? Everything's connected to like your mind, like all of it is connected. So you've got the pelvic floor that's literally the bottom of your diaphragm that goes up, like the energy moves up through and goes out through your voice, right? You have your mind, it comes out through
Right.
your
And whatever's the information that's coming in
yeah.
is
I mean,
projected out. Yeah.
everything goes through your throat.
Yeah.
Everything. Yeah.
And so, yeah, I was, one of the interviews earlier this week was with Pascal, who's a Pilates instructor, and so we were talking all about the pelvic floor and the strengthening of that through Pilates. Because at the time, I thought that I had Pilates suggested to me a couple of times. I thought, I just thought of it as core work, and I thought, my God, my core is so tight. The last thing I want to do is, sort of more crunches which was what in my mind what Pilates was it was going to be all this kind of couldn't have been further from the truth. It's been life changing. So with the back to the microdosing for a minute, there are these different substances, and you don't supply or serve these. What's your recommendation for people to find these things? I know I've seen, in fact, a friend of mine just sent me a link to a church online that you can join and get products, might get mushroom products. What you just tell people to,
Well, people who come to me for microdosing support are usually curious, and if you're curious, you probably have found you're usually got influence somewhere along the way with someone in person. It's rare for someone just to not want to talk to another human that's done the thing and just do it, right? Especially with the whole war on drugs thing, where people are very concerned about what it's going to do. As far as like where to go, I wish it was legal. I mean, it would just make things
ridiculous.
a lot easier. It's just crazy that we regulate nature, but we're like, talk to people. Like,
basically, it's out there.
It's out there. It's very out there. And depending on where you live, like if you're in a big city, depending on the big city, like there's probably stores that sell it.
Yeah.
So my 16-year-old knows where to get it because we had a conversation about it. And I was saying something like, so, what kind of this was a while ago. I wanted to know if he had been using anything yet, or I hate saying using. Sometimes using.
Right. If he tested out anything, you tried anything.
Yeah. And he's like, well, you can just get it where you get weed most of the time. And it's true. So, and people are not, but those aren't always good though either, because like the whole diamond shrooms thing, and sometimes it's not even what they say.
So that was the chocolates, right? With the 4-ACO in them?
Yeah. It wasn't even that. I looked at everything that was in it. So they blamed Amanita for a lot of it, right? And so Amanita wasn't even Amanita muscaria wasn't even in it wasn't even in some of them. So it wasn't.
Yeah.
It couldn't have been that. It wasn't in there.
Right. That chemical. Right.
Used a off-label pharmaceutical that's used for. I can't remember which one it is. I'll have to. And maybe I'll look it up. I wrote it. When I hear it, I know it, but just to recall isn't so easy. But it was a pharmaceutical that can actually like lower your heart rate.
I remember that.
And then they included a whole bunch of other stuff in it as well. It was just like a mishmash of a whole bunch of stuff. And like it just sucks that it's all regulated, because you end up with situations like that. Versus
it's not regulated. I mean, it's dysregulated. It's prohibited is the problem.
Prohibited, so not regulated. Yeah. Sorry.
I mean, not that I would advocate for the regulation, but really just decriminalization and then let the things sort it out. But I mean, my advice to people around, and I'm curious as yours around harm reduction is, dancesafe.org. You can get test strips for fentanyl. You can get, I think you can also get the kits too. Can't you get the reagents, the marquee and the...
Yeah, you can. And then also, like if you're in a city, a lot of the cities have places where you can get your drugs tested.
If you're in Chicago, like I support the, I remember they have a van that drives around the city and it's in a different place each day.
Yeah.
And you can drop off.
But that's mostly just to make sure like you're not going to, it's usually mostly for fentanyl. That's right. And checking for purity and making sure that, what else is in there. But, especially with psilocybin, like psilocybin mushrooms, you can find people like they're around. They are around.
Yeah. And they're if you're getting the whole fruit, it's generally clean.
Yeah. I mean, it's grown in nature, or I mean, could be grown in a bin, but you know what I mean? Like it's not it's not necessarily, it's not a chemical that's like just put together. Not that there's anything I don't have any judgment on any of the stuff. To me, it's neither good nor bad. It's just goal setting intention, right?
Right.
Before you choose
And
what it
safety.
is. Like if your goal is to have a lot of fun and your set is like relaxed and, drinking water all day and your setting is a festival and your intention is to connect with your friends, that's going to be a different choice selection than, trying to stay focused out at work in a setting where you can't have any emotions.
Right. Probably different substances in different amounts.
Exactly. All the stuff, right? Um, like none of it all serves a place, In my opinion, it all serves a
Sure.
place. It's the same with pharmaceuticals. We just don't think about it. Like there's a lot of different pharmaceuticals for a lot of different things that do a lot of different things. And you go to the doctor and you're like, hey, this is my goal, AKA this is what's wrong, right? Like that's
Right.
my
Yeah.
goal.
Yeah.
They look
Right.
at your set. How much do you weigh? What's your height? Like, right? They look at
Blood
something.
pressure and.
Yeah, and they don't really look at setting, right? But
Mm-hmm.
and they don't really look at your intention, but they at least do those first two parts before they decide on what the
Right. Like
substance can be.
what's the goal? Get rid of the pain.
Yeah,
Right.
exactly.
What? Oh, interesting. Yeah, that's an interesting way to look at it.
Yeah. They're just missing those next steps.
Right. Right. Of the setting and the intention. And maybe it's not a good idea to take this medicine if your setting is, again, someplace where you can't show emotion or you need to show emotion or whatever it might be.
Exactly. Yeah. So like looking at microdosing, for the most part, the it depends on what their once again, what's their goal. Like, so if it's someone who has a lot of emotional dysregulation and that's kind of what's driving, they're maybe not taking action in their business, like worthiness, feeling like an imposter, like a lot of those things that we kind of know that we do. There's usually an emotional reason behind that. So that means you probably would want something like psilocybin when you have time to work on the reasons why you're doing that. Because if you don't keep working, if you don't get underneath there, they're still going to be there. Like you can medicate, you can't medicate your way out of your issues forever. You know, you can't
Right.
supplement
Right.
your way out of dehydration. Like that's basically what it's the equivalent, right? Like you,
Yeah.
like,
It's not a Band-Aid. It's not
yeah,
a.
yeah. So
I
you
mean,
can
it's
hide
yeah.
stuff, right? Like you can hide the symptoms, right? But unless you get underneath there and work on what's causing the circumstances
Mm-hmm.
causing the symptoms, right? Then then it's still going to be there, and you're still going to have the reasons why. So like psilocybin brings up emotions. So if you're going to I love microdosing psilocybin is beautiful for what it's beautiful for. LSD is beautiful for what it's beautiful for. It's a not LSD is a non-specific amplifier, so whatever's got your attention, it's going to like go with that. If what actually has your attention subconsciously is that you're worried about like what are people going to think, or like maybe you're not posting on social
Like,
media
am I
for
good enough?
whatever the reasons are, and that's actually what has your attention, and then you take LSD, your brain is going to be like, I don't want to focus on that, so I'm just going to find the other thing that's not going to bring up all these emotions, and then I'm just going to go there because it's easier. And so LSD, when people find the right dose for them in the right circumstances, it's really great. But it is not necessarily a focus thing. It will just take your attention wherever it
Yeah.
goes. Yeah. So
And amplify it.
yeah. And so that might be color coding your file cabinet instead of working on your business proposal. Like
So be really organized.
um, or it could be like organizing your kitchen cabinet when you go in for a snack because you were subconsciously, you know, um, soothing yourself from the emotions that were arising. So you go to the kitchen without even realizing it, go to grab a snack, realize, oh, this is a mess. And 2 hours later, your kitchen cabinet's clean, but you haven't gone back into your office to do anything yet. That's that's how LSD can work for people. But if there's really clear boundaries around it and the motivation's there and there's not the emotional dysregulation and the other stuff that's under the surface, then it could be a
Yeah.
beautiful substance, right? Um, and in general, you will feel better. Like that's one of the things all of them do in general. Once
In
again,
general, I mean,
general.
it's a little bit of a lift. There's a bit of a
Yeah.
little wind in your sails, if you will,
Yeah. I call
is
it a
my
nudge.
experience. Like a nudge.
Yeah. So specifically what's happening metabolically, it's a metabolic nudge. So it's going to make things a little bit easier. But if the intention's not there, like if the goal isn't clear, the intention's not there, which way is it nudging you? Like your intention
Hmm.
helps set your direction for the nudge. And if you don't, you might be aiming in the right direction when you take it. And so then it's going to be a good nudge. But if you're facing the other way and it nudges
Yeah.
you, it's,
Then you're nudged that way.
yeah,
So
exactly.
yeah.
Yeah.
And so a couple of things. So we never really defined, for those that don't know, like a microdose. What's your definition? It
Um,
sort of varies. How do you characterize that?
so it is not something that you like feel in the sense of like you're not tripping.
Yeah.
um,
Yeah.
so I like the description of threshold to understand. So say a psychedelic experience, I think we all have, whether or not you've had it, you have an idea because you probably have seen cartoons or something, like to know that there's going to be a different perception of,
So,
of your circumstances, right? So like that's a
and
trip,
if
right?
yeah, and Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas. If you haven't had one, that's probably as close as you can get on the movie.
There you go. So think of that as being in one door, like in one room, right? And there's a doorway. So that's called, like there's a threshold of the doorway. Microdosing is way on the side of it. As you start approaching that threshold, you like say the doorway is just like it's open, there's not a closed door there. So as you start approaching the threshold, you can kind of see in. So you're starting to
Okay.
notice stuff, right?
Mm.
That microdosing is somewhere between, like you're not on the threshold, right? Like you're not
Yeah.
like,
Yeah. 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 You're
like
not
because
poking your
on
head
the
through.
threshold, you're feeling something, like you're noticing
Yeah.
things, like you're seeing, like it may not be like full over there, but you're
Sure.
there, like um,
Something's not the same.
yes. Why is the plant
Mm.
look like it's talking or
Why is it
breathing?
waving at me?
Yeah,
Yeah.
like for me, that trees will breathe, like the earth will breathe, and I'm like, I got too much because it's starting to
Too
breathe around
much.
here. Um,
Right.
so that's too much. That's not a microdose. So a microdose is before that, somewhere
Yeah.
between nothing and, oh, things are starting to breathe,
Yeah.
like
But
that's,
probably closer to nothing than closer to
yes,
things are starting to
exactly.
breathe.
You
Yeah.
can go
Yeah.
on with your normal day. And so what that amount is, there's the average, but that's the average. And if people have ADHD, they're already not average.
Mm.
So
Mm-hmm.
the amount they need is almost not ever average amount. It's either going to be on one side or the other, lower or
It's
higher.
gonna be like just a very little bit to get them somewhere, or you need to kind of push through something.
Yeah, it just depends.
Yeah.
And once again, goal setting, intention, because so that
And
that part is important. That's the what's going on with the body.
yeah. And so what does that engagement look like with you? So you're having like an initial consultation with somebody, you're going kind of through history and kind of feeling into with your own intuition of what might be with your own intuition and your knowledge of how these substances work
Well,
chemically and what their goal set and setting and intention are. And so
well,
so you're doing an initial evaluation.
it depends.
And
So I actually in February I have a cohort that's coming up, where I go through protocol development, and then I'm going to take. There will be a course after that to make it, because I
okay.
already had one, but it was a little too in depth. Sometimes when things are too much, people don't read all the things. So, especially my ADHDers, right? They're like, I'll do
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
Like they see it and they get overwhelmed with all the stuff, and they're like, that's too much. I'll just do it later. I'll do it later. I'll
I'll
do it
do it later.
later. So I need to, so I now have a much simpler thing. We always start with setting, intention. So the biggest issue, people know their goals. They're pretty good at that. They can also figure out their settings. Like that's pretty obvious. And intentions, sometimes people struggle with it. A lot of times people still want to focus on goals because the goal is like the outcome, and intention's the
Okay.
way you want to be, right? So
Yeah.
it's more about like doing and be like, how are you being? Like,
How you showing up in the
yeah,
world.
exactly. That's
Yeah.
intention. And they're different, right? So the goal is not
Mhm.
to get mad and yell. The intention is like, okay, I actually want to have this space between, you know, a thought and my
Action
word.
and the
Yeah.
thought and the reaction. Yeah,
Like
yeah, yeah.
that's
I mean,
more like, yeah,
the goal might be to grow revenues by 25% in the next year
exactly. So yeah, exactly. So like for business, it would, yeah, there's
in
clear
business
goals.
world. Yeah.
Intention is like, oh, when I have a to-do list, I don't just get overwhelmed with it and start doom scrolling, right? Like
No, no,
that's more
no.
intention
That's the
versus
intention.
goal, right?
Sure.
Um, and so the set part is the part where people, it's a little bit harder to, figure it all out. But this is when you look at the I kind of have 7 S's that I run people through. Like look at the sun, look at your sleep, look at your sustenance, look at your supplements, look at your social interactions, look at your self partnership. Is that 6? What's 7?
Sex is an S.
I don't put it as sex because you either have social, right, which could be your
Okay.
right if you're in a partner,
Right.
or your self
Right.
partnership. Because self partnership, it doesn't just mean sexuality. Because sex is just kind of a thing. It's like breathing to
Yeah.
me. Like
Yeah. 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 Right.
like it's a component. It's not the thing. But it's a fun part of life. So anyways, so you kind of look through the 7. I'll remember the 7th one
Mm-hmm.
later, when it's
Mm-hmm.
when
When you're
probably
not
off.
trying.
Yeah, exactly. Um, and so by kind of doing that, people get honest about it, right? And then you pair it with everything, right? And then you kind of got to learn the substances a little bit, under, and that's the part that I like to share with people is, okay, here's what LSD is like. This is what it's good for. Kind of,
Mm,
here's what it
mm-hmm.
is, what it's good for. Here's psilocybin, what it's good for. Here's mescaline, what it's good for. And then I also like Amanita in there, Blue Lotus. Like a lot of times, most people are starting with like Amanita and Blue Lotus or Red Lotus. I really like Red Lotus. Um, and those kind of starting there, and then maybe figuring out if they even need a substance after that. But it's just you can't make blanket statements about anything because we're all so
Yeah, it's
unique
no
and we
one
all
size.
have
Right.
circumstances. Yeah.
And even from day to day, it changes. I mean, the macro mushroom trips that I've had have been very different from one another,
Yep. Um,
depending on what's going on.
and then once you pick the substance, then it's like, okay, what's the amount? How often? And in general, I'll just say this across the board, hands down for people with ADHD. I'm a big fan of picking which days of the week you take it, not like a schedule, but based on because the goal set setting intention, right? So like if you're a solo entrepreneur and you have one day where you have a whole bunch of clients that you're supporting emotionally and you're having to be grounded, you're not going to want to take psilocybin that day because it's going to be bringing up your own emotions. And like, that's not the right circumstance.
Yep.
But maybe taking it the night before with some journaling practices so you can process your emotions, so you can show up more grounded. That might make more sense, right? So it really is that's why I'm always like goal set intention,
Yeah.
because
Yeah. No, I love
you
that.
just
That's
can't,
beautiful. Yeah.
you can learn what the substances do and then decide like, okay, how does that actually fit in with my goal, with my setting, with my intention, right?
And when you're working with somebody, you're checking in with them. You guys are having meetings calls on a regular basis, kind of a thing to review what happened in the prior week or 2 or 3 or whatever.
Yeah, so I have kind of 2 options. So I have my business coaching clients. So microdosing support is just built in, it's there, right?
Mm-hmm,
So we
mm-hmm,
meet twice a week. So Tuesdays is very business focused. So like, because that's
mm-hmm.
why we're there. Like we need to make money, like
Yeah.
that's the reality of this world, like that's what we're there for. But then Thursday is really about like, okay, what do we need to do for your nervous system? And that can look like anything. So that's anything's on the table. And people just kind of come with whatever it is. It could be a microdosing question. It could be a relationship question. It could be it could still be a systems question, because if they're like, I am so stressed, I cannot figure this out, what's the thing, whatever it is that they need to figure out how to get back into regulation. That's what Thursdays are for. And so that's usually where the microdosing kind of shows up there. And then if I do
Cool.
like one-on-one, then it's just we figure that out together.
So Tuesdays and Thursdays. So this is group. These are cohorts. These are group stuff. Tuesdays and Thursdays.
Yeah, for the business. And then I will have the protocol development. That's just for microdosing protocol development. I have a cohort in February. That's Wednesdays at 11. And it just runs for 4 weeks. And then I don't know when. I haven't scheduled the next one after that. Maybe May, June. No, whenever I feel like it.
Sure.
I was like,
beautiful.
Whatever my nervous system dictates.
Yeah, whatever. Right. Which is, I think ultimately because because of the nature of our consumerist society and our corporate driven society, we forget that, like, we get forced into, you got to do it now because you got to do it now. And maybe the system doesn't want to do it now, and maybe that's okay.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. 100%.
Yeah. Oh, I know. Chicago Recovery Alliance. So for anybody in the Chicago area, it's Chicago Recovery Alliance. They actually have a mass spectrometer, and they will analyze any drugs. And they love to get samples because their funding is based on how much stuff they process. So it's not don't think of it as an imposition. They want to do this work. And they'll test it for fentanyl, they'll test it for contaminants, they'll test it for purity. You drop it off in an envelope, you give them your phone number. The truck is usually, it's up Humboldt Park. One day a week, it's on the north side, another day a week, it's on the south side, another day a week. And so most big cities have something like that allow you to, they do needle exchanges for people that are, using drugs with needles, but you walk up, they don't need to know who you are. You give them the thing, you give them the phone number, and usually within a week they'll give you the results. So that's a very safe way to experience drugs.
Yeah.
Harm reduction.
Yep. It's all about the harm reduction. Life's already crazy enough.
Yeah. And I mean, the reality is people want to try the stuff. They're going to do the stuff. And so how can we do it with the best possible outcomes, the least harm?
I agree.
Well, Wendy, thanks so much for
my seventh S was spirituality.
So spirituality. There we go.
Yeah. I was like, what am I forgetting?
Yeah, there it is. There it is.
Yeah.
So we will have. So tell what's the website? We can say it verbally, and then it'll be in the
thesuccessdoula.com.
Successdoula DOULA.com. Thesuccessdoula.com.
I got that name from a client and was like, "You're basically like helping me birth my business."
I love that.
I was like,
yeah, because at first,
yeah.
When I saw it at first, I was kind of like, oh, well, yeah. I mean, you want to have it, if you're going to get a birth doula, you want it to be successful, but it's really about birthing the business.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
and creating, birthing, like the life that you want to live.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Well, thanks so much for being here.
Thanks for
spending
having
the
me.
time.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love it. And we'll put all of the information down below in the little text place. So feel free to reach out to Wendy and get in touch. I don't know, we were the end of January, so I don't know if we'll make it out for your February, but possibly. But otherwise, it'll be there. There will be more.
Exactly. I'm not going anywhere.
No.
At least I hope.
Right, Wendy, thanks for sharing. Right, that you know of. Yeah. Thanks so much for sharing, and thanks everybody for listening. And be well.